Rain hammered the highway like a warning no one wanted to hear. Headlights blurred into streaks of white and red as cars rushed past, each driver eager to escape the storm. Among them was a black luxury SUV, its tires slicing through standing water a little too fast, confidence outweighing caution. One sharp turn, one unseen patch of oil, and control vanished. Metal screamed, glass exploded, the SUV spun, slammed through the guardrail, and disappeared down the embankment. A few seconds later, silence swallowed the noise, except for the rain. Daniel Carter saw it all happen. He was driving an old pickup, its engine whining in protest as it climbed the hill. He was coming home from a double shift, exhaustion sitting heavy in his bones, his thoughts fixed on his 8-year-old son waiting at home with a neighbor. He could have kept driving. Many would have. Storms made accidents dangerous. Stopping meant risk. Responsibility whispered that his son needed him alive. But Daniel had lived his life listening to a louder voice. He slammed the brakes, hazards flashing, heart pounding. By the time he reached the edge of the road, he could see the SUV crushed against a tree below, steam rising from the hood, rain pouring through shattered windows. Without stopping to think, he climbed over the rail and slid down the muddy slope, his boots barely gripping the ground. Inside the wreck, a woman was slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling down her temple, her breathing shallow and uneven. The air smelled of gasoline. Daniel forced the door open with everything he had. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he ignored it. He spoke softly, steady, the way he used to speak to his son during nightmares. "You're going to be okay. I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, sharp, intelligent, afraid. She tried to speak but couldn't. Fire could spark at any second. Daniel worked fast, unbuckling her seatbelt, shielding her head as he pulled her free. The moment her weight shifted, the car groaned, threatening to slide further down. He dragged her through the rain, every step burning, lungs screaming, until they reached solid ground. Only then did he let himself breathe. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Daniel wrapped his jacket around her shoulders, pressing his hand against the cut on her head to slow the bleeding. She looked at him, really looked at him now, rain washing streaks of blood down his hands. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded once. "Help's coming." When the paramedics arrived, they took over quickly, asking questions, loading her onto a stretcher. Someone tried to get Daniel's name. He gave it, then stepped back, already turning toward his truck. He didn't wait for gratitude. He didn't wait for praise. He just wanted to go home. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know that the woman he had pulled from the wreckage was Evelyn Ross, CEO of one of the most powerful tech companies in the country, a woman whose signature moved markets and whose name commanded rooms. By morning, the story was everywhere. News anchors called him a hero. Social media exploded with grainy photos of the wreck and eyewitness accounts of the man who had appeared out of the storm and vanished just as quickly. Evelyn Ross, safe in a private hospital room, watched the coverage in silence, her gratitude deepening into something heavier. She had survived because someone chose to stop. She asked for him. It took a day to find Daniel. He didn't have an online presence, didn't answer unknown calls, and worked 2 jobs that barely kept the lights on. When Evelyn's assistant finally reached him, offering transportation, compensation, anything he needed, Daniel declined politely. "I'm fine," he said. "I just did what anyone should." But Evelyn wasn't used to being told no. She insisted on meeting him. Daniel agreed only because she wouldn't stop asking. They met in a quiet cafe, miles away from glass offices and polished boardrooms. Daniel arrived early, hands rough, jacket worn thin, eyes tired but steady. When Evelyn walked in, still healing, still fragile despite her tailored coat, the room seemed to shift. She sat across from him and studied his face, searching for something. "You saved my life," she said. Daniel shrugged slightly. "I couldn't leave you there." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents, numbers that could change everything, money enough to erase his debts, secure his son's future, buy comfort he had never known. There was also a job offer, flexible hours, benefits, security. "Take it," she said. Please, let me repay you. Daniel didn't open the folder again. He pushed it back gently. I appreciate it, he said. But I can't. Evelyn frowned, genuinely confused. Why? Daniel took a breath. This was the part people never understood. Because if I take it, that night stops being about doing the right thing, he said. It becomes a transaction. And I don't want my son growing up thinking you help someone because you'll get paid. Silence stretched between them. Evelyn felt something crack inside her, something she hadn't realized was rigid. She had spent her life believing value was measured, earned, compensated. And here was a man who had risked everything and wanted nothing. Let me help your son, she tried softly. Education, opportunities. Daniel's eyes softened, but his resolve didn't break. He already has what he needs, he said. A father who comes home. They parted without fanfare. Daniel returned to his routine. Early mornings, long shifts, scraped knuckles, bedtime stories. Life didn't suddenly become easier. Bills still came. The truck still rattled. But something had changed. People in his town began to notice him differently. Not because of the news, but because courage leaves a residue. A quiet strength that spreads. Evelyn went back to her world too, but she wasn't the same. Boardrooms felt louder. Numbers felt emptier. She started a foundation, not in Daniel's name, not for publicity, but focused on roadside safety, emergency response training, and anonymous acts of aid. No press releases. No spotlight. Months later, Daniel received a letter. No check. No contract. Just a simple note. You reminded me who I wanted to be before the world told me who to become. Thank you. Daniel folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Years passed. The storm faded into memory, but the choice remained, a single moment where dignity outweighed wealth, where humanity spoke louder than fear. And somewhere on a rainy highway, unseen by cameras or crowds, that choice continued to echo.